mean, the very first thing we're going to say is this on every one of those calls. So if you called my office today and you're posing as a potential owner client and you're interested in our service, no matter what you say on the kickoff, the first thing my person's going to say to you is be like, oh, okay, great, Stephen. Well, tell me a little bit about you and your situation. Like, that's where we're going. It's not about your property. I don't go into sales mode and say, well, let me tell you about our technology. Let me tell you why you should choose me, Stephen. No, it's tell me about you and your property, because we're starting to build that relationship.
Back due to popular demand, today I'll be speaking with Marc Cunningham, owner of Grace Property Management based out of Denver, Colorado. Marc's company manages over 1,100 residential doors and commercial properties as well. And Marc has a wealth of knowledge to share, and we're going to dive deep into all subjects related to growth, but on the actual sales side. So what their company does once a lead actually comes in. He has an untraditional method for handling sales and property management, and I thought it was worth a discussion so that you can learn from him. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. So I guess just to kind of kick things off, can you tell me a little bit about what your mindset is when it comes to sales and property management?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here, Stephen. I'm excited to talk with you again. And I guess to dive in, right, the question you just asked me is what's our mindset when it comes to selling property management services. And just to give you a little bit of context, we've been around for almost 50 years, been around since 1978. We're in Denver, manage over 1,100 single family properties, and then we've got some commercial stuff as well. And we try to have a very comprehensive strategy on business. And that that touches everything, right? It touches how we market, how we bring owner clients on, how we treat them, the whole thing. And a big part of that comprehensive strategy around bringing new folks on, to go back and to pick on you for a minute, is one thing we would never say in our office is we never use the word sell. Because strategically, I think that's the wrong angle for us, at least. I believe, and we've always believed, that property management is a service business. Right? We're not selling pens. We're not selling cars. We're not selling subscriptions. We're not selling anything. We are asking an owner client to put the key to the front door of their most valuable asset in our hand, and we're going to control that asset. We're going to take care of that asset tomorrow, the next day, next month, the month after that, in perpetuity, until that relationship ends. And the definition of a transaction, if you look it up, because we all do sales, right? When it comes to selling real estate, well, that's a transaction. That is a sign this document. We will begin the sales process of your home. We will find a buyer. We will sign the closing documents. You will get some money. I will get a check. Somebody else will get a key. And we wave goodbye. The transaction's complete and it's ending. And I can put up with you no matter how annoying you are, because I'm going to get a big fat payday at the end. Like that's a transaction, definitionally. Well, in property management, there's no end date. I mean, when does it end? Yesterday, I went to a funeral yesterday, actually, for an owner client that we have worked with for literally 45 years. He passed away. And they invited us to the funeral. Now that's not normal. I get it. I mean, I'm not so naive as to be like, so that's the kind of relationships you need to have with your owner clients. But that's the ideal, isn't it? Like that's the goal is you're so tight, you're such a trusted advisor with these owner clients that when they pass away, their family invites you to the funeral.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't happen all the time. I get it. I'm not naive. But that's a relationship. That's what we're going after from an ideal standpoint. That's where we start at. We're starting from the idea of this is a relationship, and who do we want to be in a relationship with, and we approach it from that angle.
Okay. And when you say it's a relationship, what are you doing to culture that relationship? So let's say it's a cold lead. They come in, they find you online. How do you start to develop that relationship? Because in their mind, or just like in anyone's mind, it is a sales call at the end of the day, right? So what are you doing to try to shift that mindset to it being, no, this is not a sales call. This is about us building relationships, seeing if we're a good fit. And if, maybe one day I can have you over for dinner type of thing.
I'm not having them over for Christmas dinner. All right, let's just get that out there. Never have owner clients over for Christmas dinner. The way I think we're shifting that is a couple things. the way we view ourselves, I think as an industry, the outside industry that we should most closely be aligning our mentality with are other professional industries, things like doctors, things like lawyers, things like tax accountants. Right. So when I'm about to file my taxes here, you and I are recording this in January, and I've got an appointment with my tax guy in a couple of weeks. I got to take all my tax paperwork into him.
Mhm.
When I found my tax guy here in town, he didn't sell to me. Right. When we're talking about, when I said, hey, I need to find a tax guy, I wanted their website, and I was solely focused on one thing. Does this guy know what he's doing? Is he the expert that's going to be the expert with my taxes? Same thing when I go to the doctor. I had a doctor's appointment a couple weeks ago. When I go to my doctor, I want the expert. I want the best person I can get to take care of my health, to take care of my taxes. That's who I'm going after. So if they approach me salesy, if they're like, Mark, let me tell you why you should go with us. Let me tell you why you should choose me as your accountant. Like that's going to throw me off. I'm like, wait. I just want to know you're the best around.
Yeah.
And that's how they approach it because from their perspective, they're professionals. My doctor's a professional and maybe they have a spot for me, maybe they don't. And that's how I think we should approach it on the front end side of things. That hey, we are the experts, we're the professionals, and it's a gentle. It's not like a hey, I'm a jerk and I'm going to tell you what to do and you better do it my way or else. But this idea that I want to convince you why you should choose me. I think we get it wrong right there. There's one of the phrases that I often say to PMs when I'm kind of looking over their website or giving them some feedback. I'll say, scour your website, and if you have any of these words on your website, you've gotten sucked into the sales mentality, and that is, quote, here's why you should choose me. Here's why you should pick us as your property management company. Here's why you should hire us. Because that's salesy. Like that's desperation. Oh, please pick me. Pick me. If you present yourself as the educator and you present yourself as the experts, it's not a matter of why you choose me. You don't choose us at all. We may partner in the management of your property. Absolutely. So I think it starts, and this is what you guys do a lot of it at Upkeep Media, right? On that marketing, and we call it marketing, but that idea of how do we attract eyeballs? Well, we attract eyeballs by educate, 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 not sales, sales, sales. Educate,
Yeah.
educate, educate. So that when they reach out to us, they have a need. They know they have a need. They're going to reach out to us, and that kind of that initial call. I mean, the very first thing we're going to say is this on every one of those calls. So if you called my office today, and you're posing as a potential owner client, and you're interested in our service, no
So
matter
it's
what you say on the kickoff, the first thing my person's going to say to you is be like, "Oh, okay, great, Stephen. Well, tell me a little bit about you and your situation." Like
yeah.
that's where we're going. It's not about your property. I don't go into sales mode and say, well, let me tell you about our technology. Let me tell you why you should choose me, Stephen. No, it's tell me about you and your property because we're starting to build that relationship.
Yeah. I've heard of the model basically like you want to approach it like like a doctor would. So when you go to the
Well
doctor's
said.
office, you don't walk in and be like, they're like, okay, this is wrong with you. They ask you, so how can I help you? What have you been feeling lately? What is it that's bothering you? It's the same type of approach as what you're saying, essentially, where it's like
Exactly.
you're asking them what their pain points are. And then I imagine once they tell you their pain points, you really want to make sure that your sales call or relationship builder, whatever we want to call it, for the point of this, I'll just call it a sales call though,
Sure, that's fine.
that it's based off of their pain points. Is that correct?
It's based off their pain points, but even more so than that, it's based upon whether or not we want to be in a business relationship with this person.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be in business relationships with some people. We just don't. One of our executive property managers, Sean, he asked me this. This is a while back, but he just joined us, and he was taking new owner leads. So when leads would come in, we give him those leads, and in a few minutes we can talk about how that process works. But Sean asked me one day. He said, "Mark, if I get 10 owner client leads, how many of those do you expect me to close down? Like what's an acceptable number? Should I get all 10? If I get five, is that good enough? Like, what do you, as my boss, as the company owner, what do you expect of me?" And I said, well, Sean, gosh, I don't know, but I do know this, Sean. If you close 100% of them, I'll fire you because I know as the company owner, I know if 10 phone calls come in, some of those people are not going to be a good fit for being in a long-term business relationship. And if
Yeah.
you bring one of those people on, it's going to mess things up. So you've got to be discerning on who you bring on that way. Some of the best decisions we've ever made at a business are the owner clients we've not worked with. So we want to, and we don't want to set the bar so silly high that it's like, well, we only work with the Goldilockses of the world. I get it, especially when you're starting off in business and you're growing your business. You're going to take anybody you can take, and you should. But as your business scales, you've got to continue to inch that bar higher and higher and higher to ensure that the people that come on board are a good fit for the way you do business. So just like go back to your doctor analogy, right? If I go into my doctor and I start telling them what I want of them, I want this medication. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I want you to do this. Check this, and you're not going to do surgery, but I do want you to do that. Like they're going to look at me like I don't think this is going to work because I'm the doctor. I
Yeah.
know what's wrong. I'm going to figure that out. And if you don't trust me to be the expert, this probably isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And
You'll
that's
probably get flagged as someone who's just trying to get medications or addicted to
yeah.
prescription drugs or something like that.
Yes.
Got it. So what is I'm a sales team look like? Do you actually have full-time people that just handle inbound leads? Is it a BDM or what? Can you take us through what that looks like a little bit?
Yeah. Um, so what we have always done to go way back in time, every company, including ours, the company owner at some point in time was the salesperson.
Yeah.
I mean, because no one can sell your business the way you can if you're the owner. It's your baby. You understand it. You're passionate about it. When you talk to that new perspective, if you're the prospective owner client and I'm talking to you, I can be like, Stephen, like I'm the owner. I'm your guy. If we work together, you get me. So when you're small, we all do that. And as it starts to scale, then as the company owner, you find that I don't have time for that. I'm trying to run the business. I'm trying to do everything. So maybe I'll hire someone to replace me on the sales side, bringing stuff on. From a comprehensive business strategy, we we push back against that because, like it or not, if you're the company owner, you're the face. And so for many, many years, I was the face, I was the voice, I was good at that. And that's not something that's easy to just flip a switch and make a hire to replace. So what we did early on is we kept me in that role, but I don't talk to those owner clients, but I'm still the voice, I'm still the face, my stuff is still out there. And that's where everything you guys do at Upkeep comes into play. That's where the social media comes in. So I bet right now, if we paused and I logged into, for example, our YouTube business channel. I bet while we're having this conversation, my YouTube educational videos to property owners are being watched.
Yeah.
So Video Mark, that's what we call him. Video Mark is having a conversation maybe right now with an owner client. And he's just talking to him on education. So he's not selling the company. He's not saying, hey, let me tell you how great Grace Management is. Educate, educate, educate. So that's driving the leads in. So from a process standpoint, if you are on our website, if you're watching any of our stuff, it's going to be me, still Mark, Video Mark, talking about that. And Mark's going to say, so if we can be of service, if you need help in property management, if you need someone to partner with, give us a call. Here's my contact information. Here's Mark's email. Here's Mark's phone number. And they're going to call Mark every time. So that call is going to come into Mark, or that email is going to come into Mark. If it's a phone call, like they're calling me. They think they're going to talk to me. They're not going to get me. They're going to get my voicemail. Hey,
Okay.
sorry, I missed your call. Leave a message. I'll get back to you. So the voicemail, and I get these several a day. Hey, Mark, I was on your website. I've got a property. Wanted to find out some information on property management services. Can you give me a call back? Okay, there's the intake. I'm going to hit the forward button on my email, and I'm going to send that lead to our VP of property management. He's the funnel. He's the filter. So depending on how much information that person has given in that call, he's going to send that lead out to one of our executive property managers. So our property managers, and we call them executive property managers, it goes back to the professionalism side of things. Our property manager is going to play the role of BDM from an
Okay.
industry standpoint to understand that. They're the ones that are making that reach out. So if this
Each
client,
individual property manager plays that role so that
each
you can
individual,
have, I don't know exactly how many property managers you have. Let's say that you have five. Each of those five is playing the role of a BDM.
yes, we've got about 18 property managers, and
18.
each of
So you have
those
18 salespeople as well. They're kind of a hybrid, let's say, of property manager
well,
and
the way we frame it is that's just one of their tasks.
yeah.
Just like they do security deposit returns and they do owner communication, and they do move outs and they do maintenance. Well, another
Mhm.
thing that they do on their task list is new incoming owner leads. So
Okay.
it's just a task they're doing. It's not a separate role, just part of what they do, and we've always structured it that way.
So do you track their closing rate? So you have 18 different property managers that handle those inbound leads. Do you track their closing rate individually?
Oh
Because what
yes.
happens if you have a case where it's like one person's just really not good at handling inbound leads? You know, there's some people that just don't have the personality for that. Is that something that you track rigorously, or what does that look like?
Yes, we do track it. And to kind of take a step backwards, the way we're structured with our property managers is they're all licensed. So they're licensed real estate. In Colorado, you have to be licensed to perform property management. They
Okay.
have a real estate license, number one. Number two, because of that, they're independent contractors. Just like if they sold real estate for us, a real estate salesperson, you understand they're an independent contractor.
Yeah.
Well, our property managers are independent contractors. They're
Okay.
licensed, they're independent contractors, and they're commission based. So if I hire you, Stephen, as one of my property managers, you have your real estate license, and I say, okay, Stephen, here's the deal. You've got your license. You're going to be an independent contractor. So you still got to follow our process. It doesn't mean you're a gun for hire. And I'm like, hey, good luck.
Mhm.
Hope it works out. You're still going to be a part of the team. You do it the way we do it, but you're commission based, Stephen. So every time you bring on a new client and we'll send you the leads, you just got a raise. Every time you
Yeah.
do a crummy job and an owner fires us or fires you, you're not making as much money next month. So when I hand you that lead, there's the enticement for you to be like, ooh, great. I don't care if I have time to call this person. I'm going to call them because I want to raise. Now,
Yeah.
when you say to me, hey, Mark, man, I'm tapped out. I'm managing 120 doors. I'm making the money I want to make, but I don't have time for leads. It's June and I am swamped, Mark. I say, okay, great, no problem. We'll pause the leads until you're ready to add more, and maybe you're not ready to add more. Maybe you're tapped out and you're good there, and then we will go hire another property manager, and they will
Okay.
start filling their portfolio. So it's a rinse and repeat, and we've done this since literally we had executive property manager number one many years ago, and today we're on number 18. We've got a new one starting next month. Why? Because all my PMs are kind of tapped out, and so it's a great scalable model, I believe, that we could continue to add. When everybody fills up, no problem. I go hire another property manager. Now let me come back to something you mentioned a moment ago with like the personality, right? What if they're not good at that?
Mhm.
If we approach this from a relational side of things, right? We say we are a relationship based property management company. Like that's one of our little taglines that we utilize. Therefore, when I'm looking to hire a property manager, I want somebody likable and I want someone who is relational in their mindset. If I'm talking to someone who's just a machine or they bring they're just not likable, right? We're interviewing them and I'm like, man, I don't like this person. When's this going to be done? I'm not going to
Mhm.
bring them on the team. I want someone who is likable and relational. Why? Because that's a necessary component of being successful for us.
So
So
when
the
you're
idea,
so when you're bringing them on and you're interviewing them, you're almost interviewing them to see if they're capable of doing sales as well, or building that relationship
yeah,
to bring the
yeah,
client
and,
on.
and we don't frame it that way, but yes,
Yeah.
do they have the ability when they sit down with someone for that person they're sitting down with to be like, you know what, I want to give you the keys to my house. That's
Mhm.
the mentality. Is this a person, right? If I'm interviewing you right now, is Steven a person that someone's going to be like, you know what, here's the key to my house. And if I don't want to give you the key to my house, if I don't get the sense that people are going to want to give you the key to their house, you're not going to be a successful property manager for us. So that means you've got to present yourself as likable first and foremost, as knowledgeable, as trustworthy, and as having the ability to make problems go away. If you can do that, you're going to be successful. And I hear some people in our industry say, well, property managers aren't necessarily really good at bringing clients on. And I don't get that because I think they should be. Property managers deal with people all day long. They deal with difficult tenants and difficult owners all day long. So if you say they're not people, then they're not good property managers in my mind because property management isn't about managing properties. It's about managing the people connected to them.
Yeah. So what would you say some of the pros and cons are of having property managers as independent contractors? Like, can you still control what they do like you would a regular employee?
Great question. Uh, that's one of the common questions, right? Well, Mark, there's sounds like a great model, Mark, but there's no way I could do that because I want to control my people, right? I want to be able to tell them to be in at 8 o'clock, and your lunch is at noon, and they're done at 5 o'clock. I want control, and I understand that mentality. I'm a control freak a little bit that way. The way we stumbled into this model, and this wasn't some like epiphany that we had, but the way we stumbled into this model is many years ago, we bought one of our competitors, and she had a company in town. We were friends, and she's a great property manager, but she didn't like the business end of property management. She didn't like the rules and the regulations and all the junk that comes along with running and owning the business. She was just a great property manager. And so we talked, and Sherry is her name, and so we eventually bought her company. She had 125 doors, I think. So we said, "I'll tell you what, Sherry, why don't we buy your company? Right? We absorb you, but then you come work for us as a property manager. So you're still managing your portfolio, but you're going to manage it under our systems, our processes, and you work for us." And she said, "Well, that sounds great, but Mark, I don't want to be your employee, quite frankly. I love the independence. That's why I started this business. I love the independence I have of working when I want to work, not working when I don't want to work. I don't want to be a W-2 employee, Mark. That doesn't appeal to me." And I said, "Well, I get it. Well, gosh, you're already licensed. You are licensed. You're a very independent-minded person. How about this? How about we bring you on a commission-based independent contractor? So I don't care what time you come in the office. I don't care what time you leave. I don't care if you do emails at noon or if you do them at 3 in the morning. Just get your work done, but you come in that way, and then we'll pay you a commission for the portfolio you manage. And you have a tremendous amount of freedom, but you also have a tremendous amount of responsibility. But you got to do it our way. You can't just you're not a gun for hire. And we control the properties. We can assign them or de-sign them." And she said, "That sounds great. Let's give it a shot." And it worked awesome. It worked awesome. She loves it. Sherry's with us today. She just hit her 14th, 15th year anniversary with
Oh,
us. And
awesome.
I don't think our PMs, uh, they never want to leave us. Why would they want to leave? It's the best thing in the world for them. They've got total flexibility, total freedom. If they want to make more money, we'll give them another lead. They want to scale back a little bit because some of our PMs are like, you know what? Like Sherry. Sherry's got grandkids. She doesn't want to work 40 hours a week, and she's not interested in making $500,000. She doesn't want to work that hard. She wants to scale back. No problem. So she manages about 50 doors, and she has the best of all worlds. We've got other PMs that are younger, and they're like, "Man, I'm in it for the money. I want to make some money here, and I'll work.
Mhm.
I don't mind working a lot." Okay, great. We'll feed you those leads, and you can grow your portfolio up, and you can make what you want to make. So it's not only is it scalable from my perspective, it's very attractional to that person, whether they want a lifestyle that Sherry has, or they want the growth that Sean has right now, which is, hey, I want to manage 130 doors because I
Do
want to
you,
make some money.
do you cap the amount of doors that they can manage? Because I imagine that there might be someone that's like, I want to manage 400 doors. But if you have one person managing 400 doors, your service is going to decrease, right? The quality
Yeah.
of the service. How do you balance that? Because from what I'm understanding, also, the commission is a big part of their livelihood, of the amount that they can earn. If they're capped out, they can no longer make that commission. I guess two questions. One, do you have a maximum amount of doors that you allow them to manage? And two, what does that commission look like? Is it recurring so that they're getting a monthly commission for as long as the client stays with you, or is it a one-time payout when the client signs on?
Yeah. Um, the commission structure is based upon the percentage of the actuals. So every month when we close our accounting cycle, right, we use rent bind. So the 10th day of each month, we close out our owner accounting cycle.
Mhm.
And we see how much money did the owner pay in management fees? How much money did the tenant pay in late fees? What are their leasing fees? Right? What are the income pieces? And then the PM earns a percentage of each of those amounts. So
Yeah, so it's
if we take a management fee in, they're going to get a percentage of that management fee. So it's every single month. It's recurring, and it's different though. It's off of actuals that way. So on the
got
cap side of things, the way we're structured is we also have we've got other team members that are employees that do a lot of the tasks that our PMs don't do. So we've got a leasing team that takes care of all the leasing. That our PMs don't do leasing. We have an accounting team that takes care of all the rent collection, the trust accounting, the payouts, the accounts payable, accounts receivable. PMs don't do that. We've got a resident services coordinator that takes care of all the lease renewals and they take care of all the incoming tenants ticky-tack questions. Our PMs don't do that. So the way we're structured that way, our PMs are able to manage typically up to roughly 125. It's hard to manage more than 125. But if you said to me, well, Mark, I manage 125 and I'm busy. I don't have any more bandwidth, but I want to make more. What do we do here? Well, that's an easy one to solve, Stephen, because then what you're going to do is you're going to increase the quality of your portfolio. So instead of bringing on instead of that property that you have right now, that's the one bedroom condo in downtown Denver, renting for $995 a month, take that out of your portfolio. Give it to a different PM. You just open up a new slot for you. And what are you going to replace in that slot? You're going to pick up a single family home in the suburbs renting for $2,800 a month. And so you just doubled your income on that property. And maybe we take the management fee that you're charging. I say you, but we, right? That we're
Yeah.
charging the owner clients for your portfolio. Maybe it's time to up your management fee because if you up your management fee on your portfolio, remember you're getting a percentage of the actuals. So
Yeah.
Sherry has, I think, the highest average management fee charged in our company. Why? Because she's only got 50 slots and
Yeah.
Sherry's an expert. And if you want to work with Sherry, you're going to pay for Sherry. And so Sherry has a higher average management fee than the new person just coming on who's trying to build their portfolio.
Got
So
it.
it's really kind of a life cycle of the portfolio that they can design what they want. And that's where I come in as well to be like, hey, it's time to bump up your management fees. Everybody wants to work with you, Stephen. We got to start charging a little bit more on your management fee for your portfolio because you're that good.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing, one of the kind of key ingredients that allows you to have this type of model has a lot to do with the fact that you are very good at creating educational style content that drives leads inbound, right? If you didn't have that and you had to go out and get the leads, the entire process would kind of, the entire system wouldn't really work. It flourishes because you're on the front end basically getting your name out there, making them feel like they know who they're going to work with, educating them on different topics that are super relevant for rental property owners in the Denver market. Because of that, they feel comfortable enough that they want to reach out. They feel they're reaching out to you. They give you a call, they send an email, they think they're going to speak with you. Instead, it ends up being, you said the VP that kind of filters them out. And then from there, you'll have whichever property manager it is that still has slots open, gets assigned to that lead, reaches out to them. Do they say kind of, hey, I'm calling from Grace Property Management and Mark's just not available right now? Or what does that kind of look like when they
Yeah.
first make that
Yeah,
call?
that's exactly what they say. That's the soft handoff, right? So the call starts off with, "Hey, this is Sherry at Grace Management. You called and left a voicemail for Mark. Mark's not available today, but he asked me to give you a call. So why don't you tell me a little bit about you and your situation?" So there's the soft handoff, and that really, really works well. People don't call and ask for me because they're talking to Sherry or Sean or whoever it is on the front end. And one of the things that also works so well in this model is my executive property manager, when Sean's talking to this potential owner, if you're the owner, what Sean's going to say to you is, "Hey, by the way, Steven, if we work together, I'm your guy. I am your singular point of contact. You ever
Mhm.
have a question on anything, you're going to reach out to me. I am your executive property manager."
Yeah.
Now, compare and contrast that to the other companies you call to potentially talk to, and they're talking to a BDM or a salesperson. And that
Yeah.
salesperson is going to be slick, and they're going to be trying to close them, and they're going to be going over objections, but then they're going to be like, and then when you sign up, well, you're going to work with somebody here in our office, and da da. Da. If we go back to what we started with, which for us is foundational, that we are relationship based, that component is rock solid. So the likelihood of you deciding to work with us just went up dramatically if you like Sean. Goes back to the likability. So you can see how all these pieces of the puzzle fit together. Right. So if
Mhm.
Sean's not likable, well, no way are you going to work with the guy. So I better hire likable property managers.
So where do you go to find likable property managers? Like, do you just post an ad on Indeed, or what does that look like?
We've found them from all over the place. We found a number of our property managers have come out of the multifamily world.
Okay.
That's been a great pool for us because they get it. They get property management. They get dealing with tenants. They get following processes and procedures and checklists. They understand the business side pretty well. Um, that's been a great pool for us. People that have only done real estate sales, that's a harder transition. If you've only done sales, you've never done property management, yes, you're licensed, but the transition is always rougher because they bring a sales mentality to this. And I will
Mhm.
do whatever you want me to do, Stephen, to close this deal. And that's not the mentality of an expert. So that's a harder transition we found that way. But I think the multifamily world is component number one, pool number one
Okay.
of where to get people for this. And then other people within the industry that have done leasing. Leasing agents are great that way as well.
And how do you find people from the multifamily world? Is it through job postings or?
Yeah, yeah, just job postings. We're large enough now in scale that a lot of our newer folks come from somebody else in our office knows.
Okay.
Our office will be like, "Hey, I know who we should go after. Call this person." But when we were hiring in smaller, yeah, we'd post on LinkedIn, we'd post on WiseHire, we would do all post through ADP. I mean, we would just job post, and
Okay.
the position description is really important because the position description is going to talk about everything I just said. It's going to talk about we're looking for someone with a real estate license, independent contractor, commission based, and some people that's not going to appeal to. We had a prospective property manager we were interviewing a while back, and I really liked him. I really liked this gal. She couldn't get over the independent contractor side of things. She was like, I want the stability of a W 2.
Yeah.
And I said, I get that, but let me ask you, like, take off your stability hat for a minute. What's more stable, right? You controlling your own portfolio that you grow and you're responsible for, or me as your W-2 boss being able to fire you on a whim?
Mhm.
I mean, it's false stability. There's no more stability on a W-2 than there is an independent contractor where you control it. But we attract now with this model, we attract people who are a little bit higher on the independence scale, right? I
Yeah.
don't want someone who just wants to punch a clock. That's not what I'm looking for. I want a go-getter.
They're a little more entrepreneurial in nature, I
Yes, they
guess.
are. They are. They bring that ownership mentality to the business, which that's just another piece of the puzzle. It helps them run their portfolio very well because they've got skin in the game. They got to take care of these people, or else they're not going to get paid.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then the
Um,
other component, sorry to interrupt,
no, you're
the
okay.
other component I think that this works so well with is it solves the problem of bringing on the wrong owner clients. Because if you're my property manager, Stephen, and you're like, okay, I'm trained up, I'm ready to go, and the first person you go talk to is a crazy owner, what a BDM is going to do is they're going to overcome the objections of that crazy owner. They're going to try to sell, right? The mentality of a BDM is sell, close the deal.
That's their
That's how they
incentive.
think. That's how they think. That's how they're wired. So if I hire a BDM, and this is what PMs will tell me. Well, Mark, I just trained my BDM to watch out for the bad fits and like don't go get those. That's how I train him. That's how I'm going to solve that problem,
Mhm.
which I think is on the stupider side of things to say. Because a BDM's very nature, if you're a salesperson, and I'm a salesperson by nature, I get it. I mean, my first job as a kid was selling candy door to door. I love to sell. I'm good at selling. I get it. That's my nature. If you tell a person who's wired to close, hey, by the way, don't sell to everybody. Like that doesn't even compute in their head. You're like, wait a minute, you're going to put me in front of some people and you don't want me to sell them the candy if I don't like them? Like
Mhm.
that, I can't do that because if they can do it, they're not good at what they do. They're good at overcoming objections. But with our model, it's a little different because now the executive property manager has a filter. So yesterday in our office, Leanne, one of our best property managers, she says to me, she goes, Mark, when you have a few minutes, I need to tell you about the story of the owner client who I just talked to yesterday. And this guy, I have trouble saying no because I like to close, but boy, this guy was a bad fit. And I had to basically tell him no 5 times before he would accept no for an answer. And he wanted to work with us so bad, but I could tell this guy was going to be a nightmare. And she didn't even give me the whole story. I said, "Well, I want to hear that story later." But she said no. She filtered him away because he would have been a bad fit for us.
Yeah,
A BDM would have closed this guy. I don't want this guy.
that's fair. And that in the long run will just impact your reputation as a whole. Because if you're working with quote unquote crazies, naturally you're going to have crazy situations. You're going to have a lot more client churn and you're going to get more negative reviews out there.
Yes,
Versus this case where they're incentivized to choose somebody that they want to work with because they're the ones that are actually going to have to deal with their issues. They're going to choose the right people that are a good fit for the business, that are a good fit for their personality type. And you should have them around for a longer period of time because of that. They should end up with a happier overall experience working with your company, which will increase your reputation, which will improve your online reviews as well, which will then lead to more people reaching out. So it kind of
exactly.
snowballs in that sense.
Yes, it does. It's a comprehensive strategy, right? That's what we're talking about here. This isn't just a, hey, here's how we've decided to grow. It's not that. It's a big picture, comprehensive strategy of all the pieces of the puzzle you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best number, if people are looking like for a metric to measure whether how well your process and your comprehensive strategy is working, is the word you just used a moment ago, which is what's your churn, right? So if someone says to me, "Well, Mark, I don't do it that way. I've got a BDM, and we do it the opposite of you, and I think our system works fine." And maybe it does, but my question to them would be, "Okay, well let's boil it down to a metric. Which way wins? What's your churn rate on an annual basis?" Because I can tell you my churn rate, and when we say churn rate, we mean what percentage of your owner clients leave you
Yeah.
every year.
I believe the industry
Ours,
average is right now around 35 to 40% from what I've heard.
oof. Yeah, you that's scary, but yeah, I suspect you're right. I've heard that 30. Ours is 10. So we
Wow.
churn 10% of our owners every year. And I think from an industry standpoint, that's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
I could do my business, I could give my services away for free, and we're still going to churn 10% of our owners because life happens. Right? They move, they need money, they have to sell, whatever.
Yeah.
But if your churn rate is 35%, and here again is where I think PMs get it wrong. They say, you know what, I'm churning 35% of my doors. I need a better onboarding experience. I need a better owner experience. And I would say to them, no, you don't. That's not what you need at all. You brought on some wrong owners. And it's not about convincing them to
Mm.
stay, it's about not bringing them on in the first place. So our onboarding percentage, the number of people we close, to go back to terminology we don't use, but the number of people we bring on is probably lower than some other people that do it with a BDM model. But the people we bring on stay because we're the likelihood of us bringing on a bad owner fit is much reduced versus the model of a BDM bringing them all on. So we're going to churn 10%. People are going to stick around, which makes business easier, which keeps my people happier. It comes full circle. All these pieces of the puzzle, I think, work well.
Got it. What does the experience look like once they speak with that executive property manager? Is it usually a two-call process? Do they try to see if they want to sign up on that first call? Can you walk us through a little bit what that looks like?
It's going to be a little bit unique to the situation. So, we do have those owner clients who will call in and say, "Hey, I'm in town for 2 days. Can you meet me at the property tomorrow? Bring the paperwork. Let's get this thing done." And great, we'll do that. We do track closing time frame, and it runs, which always surprises me. It runs about 30 days. In my mind, I'm always surprised. I'm like, why does it take so long? But
I would
what
say that's actually pretty quick. Usually, most property management companies is probably around 90 days.
hmm,
And just to add on to that, I'd say one of the reasons why it probably takes so long is for most people, this is the largest asset that they own. So for someone on a whim to decide, okay, this is the biggest asset I own, and I'm going to use this company to manage it just because they met you that day, it's I mean, there are people that are impulse buyers, but most people with really big important decisions are going to take a little bit more time. They're going to do a little bit more research. They want to feel comfortable with that decision. So I'd say that's probably reason why it's around 30 days. Most companies, it's actually longer than that.
hmm. That makes sense. I've never thought of it that way, but that makes perfect sense.
So it takes around 30 days, which is pretty good. And during those 30 days, are you having multiple touch points with them? Is it that first call and then you're just kind of waiting for them? Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah. Because it's relationship based and because of everything I'm talking about, we don't have like a 7 point touch system to
Yeah.
where, hey, now tomorrow they're going to get an automated email. And then 2 days later, they're going to get a second text, and then they're going to get a auto-generated AI phone call. We don't do that.
Okay.
And I don't think that's wrong, but if our strategy is relationship based, that's not a good start off for a relationship. If we've got to touch someone 7 times to get them to sign up, to use these words, right? Then we're starting off on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
So
The only thing, I'll just play devil's advocate there a little
yeah,
bit. The only
please.
thing I will say to that is people get busy and they get busy with the day-to-day aspects of life. You spoke with them 2, 3 weeks ago. At this point, maybe there's another property management company that spoke with them as well, because they probably reached out to more than one company, or there's a chance that they have. That other company is reaching out to them constantly. You guys haven't reached out once. It could give the impression that that other company wants to work with them more than yours does, right? Also, it also makes the other company more top of mind. So if they're super busy, they're like, I need to make this decision, but I'm so busy, and they don't hear from you at all, you could be losing that lead also, right? And I'm just playing
Yes.
devil's advocate here. I'm
No,
not saying that you have to go that route, but
that's a great point. So here's how I would counter that. If on your first meeting with that owner client, because you're my property manager, Stephen, if on that first meeting you presented yourself as the expert, and through the education on the website stuff, you presented yourself as the expert,
mhm,
and you have that call, and depending on how you left it, right, you may leave it. They may be like, well, let me think about it a while, and I'll get back with you. Okay, great. What you're going to do from a training side of things is you are going to follow up with them about 2 days later. Right? I want you to follow up with them.
okay,
And if you get a voicemail, great, leave a voicemail. If you need to make a second call, make a second call. Okay. But here's what you're going to say in that second call, Stephen. Hey, it's Stephen at Grace Management. I just wanted to check in, hadn't heard back from you. I don't want to bother you, but if we can be a future resource, give me a call. Okay. Because what you did right there is you just told them, hey, I'm not desperate. I'm not trying to sell you something. Right?
mhm.
And so I think what you're doing is you're creating the idea of what's the word I'm looking for? What's the opposite of desperation?
Basically that you're at a point where kind of like you have so much business that you'd work with them because you know you can help them, but you don't actually need their business,
Yeah,
right?
desperation is ugly, right? Desperation
Yeah,
smells. And I think if that owner client's getting the touch and the touch and the touch and the 7 point touch from somebody else, maybe that person is front of mind. But if they're truly looking to go with the expert and they're looking to go with the people who they can trust with the key to the front door of their house, more likely than not, they're not going to do it because you called them 7 times. Like now it's just a desperation. I want to go with who I really, really trust. And here's the other component I would say with that. If you've got to touch them 7 times and then they're like, okay, fine, I'm ready to go. There is a mental side of who's in charge of that at that point in time that leans in their favor, right?
yeah,
You called me 7 times, and finally I called you back, and I'm like, okay, Steven, I'm ready to go. Mentally, I feel like I'm running this because you had to call me 7 times. That it relevels the playing field to be like, hey, I'm not going to bother you anymore. Here's my contact information. Happy to help if we can. Let me know if we can because now I've leveled the playing field. I'm not desperate for your business. We're doctors, we're lawyers, we're accountants, we're professionals. Professionals don't chase. If I was selling you a pen, yes, I want a 7 point touch system to try to close the deal. But this isn't about selling. It's about being in a relationship. If you're trying to date someone and you have to call them 7 times before they return your call, that's not starting off on an equal footing relationship. That's just not healthy. That's not what we're looking for. Now, could you say, well, that reduces your close? Maybe, but remember, at the end of the day, I'm measuring churn.
yeah.
So when those folks come on board, they're going to stick with us. So this is a slower growth model. I mean, if people like this, yeah, you're not going to grow as fast as maybe you would if you just went out there and close, 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 close. But if the comprehensive strategy is long term and you want to be in business for a long time, I think this serves it very well.
Awesome. No, it's a really unique strategy that I haven't really heard of before. One of the reasons I want to talk to you about this, because it is something that I think can be a perfect fit for a lot of companies. And as you said, it's maybe not the right fit for everybody, but it is something definitely worth considering, especially in an industry like property management, where relationships are super important and where the truth is, like, your life as the owner is going to be more difficult if you're bringing on clients that are not a good fit for your business. So it's definitely something that I think holds a lot of weight. I understand your side of things. I push back a little bit just to see kind of how you take that, but I definitely understand where you're coming from with that. On that note,
What
just
I'm curious. Let me ask you a question. What holes do you see? What other? I mean, give me some more pushback. What other holes do you see in this? If you're saying,
if
Mark, but here's why it's better the other way.
I'd say that you probably, if you have 18 salespeople, executive property managers that are acting as salespeople, at the end of the day, there's certain people that are better at bringing on people than others. There's certain people that are more likable than others. So you probably have a lower close rate than you would if you had maybe two or three people that excelled at that. When you do something day in, day out, nonstop, you get better at it, right? So if their sole purpose is just to create those relationships, they'll probably be better at bringing on the business. That's possible. Again, I'm just poking holes here. I'm not saying it's for sure that way, but that's something I could see. Um, I guess another thing would be what we just kind of touched on as well, where basically you have a situation where one property manager, or I guess not what we just touched on, we touched on earlier, where you have one property manager that doesn't want to bring on a lot of business. So if they're the one that is currently getting fed the leads and they're kind of in a mindset of like, I only want my perfect fit, even though that client might have been a perfect fit for your business, but not for their individual portfolio, then you might be losing out on those ones as well. And then what we just touched on was basically the follow up process as well. I think if you're not following up, there's a good chance that you're probably losing some leads there as well. Uh, and it's not to say you have to have 7 touch points, but I'd probably try to sprinkle in a few more than just like one touch point afterwards. Just because of the fact that people get super busy. People also have multiple options in property management. It's an industry that has a lot of different service providers. So I'd say those are probably areas where I'd say if I'm playing devil's advocate and if I'm really trying to like find holes, that's where I'd say they are. But I could do the exact same for the other model, right? There's issues with just having one person as the BDM. The incentives aren't aligned. You're building a relationship type business. That person's incentivized solely to bring on the business. There's ways that you can kind of, let's say, try to counter them as much as possible, like make it that the client has to stay on for a minimum of a year for them to get their full commission or things like that. But ultimately, there's no perfect model. It's about finding the perfect model for your business and the type of client you want to bring on. So your churn rate is incredible. I haven't heard of a company with that low of a churn rate, and I think that has a large part to do with the way that you structure things.
You bring up some really good counterpoints. One thing we do, and I didn't mention this, but I think it's worth mentioning because you talked about the touch points, right, ongoing touch points. Another component that we do with that is we put their information into we use Constant Contact, but
Yep.
into that marketing campaign, that educational marketing campaign, and every month they are going to get an educational email from us.
Okay.
So if you called my office, if we capture your email address, you're going to get a monthly educational email forever, type of a thing.
Okay.
So I agree with you. There needs to be something beyond a, hey, I called you and you'll never hear from me again.
Mhm.
So that becomes our backstop. Is yeah, every month, and it's interesting to see how many people will come around a year later. Right? They'll call up and be like, hey, I've been getting your emails every month. Well, how do they get our email? They contacted us at some point in time, and so we do have that drip campaign, which is
Yeah. So,
very
so you do
effective.
have other touch points then.
Yes, that
Okay.
is a built-in thing there. And one common question I get or pushback is something you just said there, right? It's like, well, Mark, there are ways to incentivize the BDM to make sure they bring on good clients. For example, the BDM or the client would have to be with us for a certain amount of time, right? If they leave in the first 90 days, they're not going to get paid. I'm a sales guy by nature. Okay, if you hire me as your BDM and you tell me that, hey, Mark, if this client doesn't stick around for 90 days, you're not getting paid. The way I process that as a salesperson isn't to say, oh, well, then I shouldn't bring on bad fit clients. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to double my close ratio because I know a percentage of them are going to leave in 90 days. So I think by doing what you just said, which is kind of the common sense way we think, oh, I'll just structure it that way. I think you sabotage yourself because I'm a BDM by nature. I get it. I understand closing. What
Mhm.
I'm going to do if you tell me that as the boss, I'm like, okay, well, let's see, I'm going to lose 20% of the people I close. I'm not going to get paid for. So I better close 20% higher than I otherwise would have closed to offset that. So now I'm opening the floodgates. Now I'm bringing everybody on, and I'm just going to kind of be like, well, let's see who leaves. So I don't think that's a good
I would do longer than
strategic
90
way of
days
thinking.
if you could. I think 90 days is too short because to keep someone for 90 days in property management, unless you really mess up, should be pretty achievable. To keep someone for over a year, now you've kind of earned their trust.
Yeah.
So I think I'd try to extend that period so you can pay out the commission right away. But then it's like if they leave within the first year, that commission's going to get deducted from your future commissions type of thing or
Okay,
structured in
but
some
if
way.
you tell me that as a salesperson, I'm going to be like, Steven, that's on you, man. If I bring a client in and you can't take care of them and 9 months from now they leave, that's not my fault. That's because you didn't take care of the client.
Yeah. No,
So I
I
mean,
hear you.
I
Like I
mean,
said,
I,
there's
I
there's
get the
holes in both
mentality of a
strategies.
salesperson, right? I get that mentality, and that's why we've kind of tried to do that. Now, one other important component we didn't really touch on is one thing our property managers do not do is they don't drive the leads. They don't go to investor meetings. They don't do social media posts. That's my job, right? To come
Yeah.
full circle in our conversation. My job is to make the phone ring. My job is to feed them the lead. And I
You're
think
the
this is
marketer.
I'm the marketer. Yeah. This is another reason why I think our property managers don't ever want to leave us. Because some people are like, well, Mark, what do they need you for then? I mean, if they're doing all the work, they're taking the lead, they're managing the property, why don't they just go do it themselves? Well, one thing they don't have to do is they don't have to market.
Yeah,
Making the
you're
phone ring
building
is
the brand
hard.
name. You're
Yeah.
building the brand name at the end of the day.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you aren't doing that, there's probably no one in your company that can do it as well as you can at this point. You have the most experience. You're very good on video as well, so that is a plus for you. You're playing to your strengths. Not everyone is in that situation, but it makes sense for you to be out there as the voice, and then you can have the team managing and fulfilling the actual service. But yeah, in this case, it's like, hey, these leads are coming to you. All you have to do is speak with them, get them to sign up, and then make sure that they have a good experience while they're working with you.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it works. I mean, we our net growth last year was about 150 doors. That's our
Awesome.
net. So that's after people dropped off the back end.
Yeah.
So and this is something we've been doing for literally 15 years. So it works, right? It's not
Yeah.
like, hey, we're going to try it. We've done this for 2 years and it's working pretty well for us. I think until you have like a track record, it's hard to say models that work. And by the way, we've tried the BDM model. The BDM model is new to our industry about 10 years ago. Before
Yeah.
10 years ago, no one had ever heard of a business development man. Like what's that? And so it was kind of brought to our industry as an idea,
Mhm.
and and we tried it even. We even took, this was a number of years ago, we took one of our top property managers who was one of the best at closing folks down. And we
Okay.
said, you know what? What if we put them in this model? Like, let's move you over there. Okay. So you just go spend all your time bringing it on. We'll pay you a commission. And then you hand it off to one of our other PMs. Like, let's try it. Let's see what
Mhm.
happens. And it didn't work as well as we wanted to because of almost everything we've talked about. They were so good at closing that they still, even understanding who we wanted and who we didn't want, they couldn't help but close people on that maybe we shouldn't have brought on, number one.
Yeah.
And the other big problem that we didn't talk about within the traditional model is the handoff.
Yeah.
So my awesome BDM, who you love, Steven, and they're slick and they close you down and they overcome their objections and you love them and it's great. Then they say, "Oh, by the way, Steven, you're never going to talk to me again. I'm going to
Exactly.
introduce you to Sally over here, and she's going to be your property manager and she's going to run things." And then you're like, I don't like Sally. Sally's not nice, and she's telling me different things about my property than you told me. And like, I don't like that. And so what PM companies will do is they'll be like, well, we've got to solve the handoff. And I've even talked to large scale PM companies that have said this to me. They said, you know what? We're going to create a new position, and they're going to be like a transition coordinator. So
Mhm.
they're gonna take it and make sure the transition works. And I've been asked like, what do you think of that, Mark? And what I want to say is that's stupid. So you're fumbling the handoff, and your solution is let's add another handoff. And,
Yeah.
and that'll solve the fact that we're fumbling handoff number one is if we add handoff number two into the play. No, why would you add another Well, you need to reduce handoffs, not add another one. So
Yeah, 100%. That
within our
makes no sense.
structure, no, within our structure, we have no handoff. There's no handoff.
Yeah.
I'm your guy. I'm your gal. I'm going to work with you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a pro of this. Like they know who they're going to be working with from day one. They know that the personality matches, so you're going to naturally have people that are a good fit. So that's definitely a downside of the BDM model. Like I said, there's pros and cons to each. I think at the end of the day, you kind of have to decide what's right for your business. But I see a lot of value in the way that you structure things.
Well, all I know is it's worked well for us.
Yeah. Awesome. On that note, any departing words of advice for any property management companies out there that are looking to grow their business or improve their sales?
Whether you use a BDM or whether you do it like however you do it, you've still got to solve the problem, which you guys do at Upkeep, which is you got to make the phone ring. Right? You got to drive the lead. You got to drive the lead in. And so whether you're doing that by having a BDM in place, however you're going to do it, I think you guys solve that, which is education-based content distributed online. Right. And there's 15 different ways to do that. And that's why I think it's kind of fun to have this conversation because everything you guys do is about driving the lead. But what do you do when the phone does ring? Right? I mean, how do you, that's what we just talked about here, the back end of keeping people and holding on to folks that way. So that's got to be part of the strategy within this big or overarching side of things. Number one there, and I think the other thing just to remind PMs is not every client is a good client. Right? You
Yeah.
don't want everybody, and the bigger your business gets, and the more you scale, the more you have to raise the bar on who you'll let in. If you're just starting your business today and you've got 5 doors, man, when that phone rings, you better go into close mode because you got to eat next month and you got bills to pay. So you bring them all on. Unless they are certifiably crazy, you bring them on. And you'll start to scale a little bit and then you'll raise the bar a tick and you'll scale a little bit more and you'll raise the bar another tick. So as you get bigger, 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 you have to raise the bar higher, higher, higher. But I wouldn't encourage people that are small to go out and suddenly be like, well, I'm going to have a really high bar on who I bring on because then you won't grow.
Got it. No, that's great advice. For anyone, I guess, that wants to get more advice from you, do you have anywhere in particular that they can go to learn more from you?
Yeah, we put all of our, we do a lot of property management education, which we have a site for that, pmbuild.com was where we put all of our educational stuff. We actually have everything we've just been talking about is one thing that we talk about. This is just one agenda item. We have what we call our Visit Grace events, which is a small group of property managers coming out to my office in Denver, spending 2 days with me and my team where we talk about this and a lot of other things, just how we do business. And we do have one coming up in February, February 26 and 27. People can get information on the pmbuild.com website under our events tab. But would encourage folks if they like this and other things that we do, happy to check us out and visit us at our office.
Awesome. Just for anyone listening or watching, that's Feb 26, 27, 2025. But you host these annually, if I'm not mistaken, right?
This is our eighth one, so we've been doing a couple a year. We just kind of take them one at a time, so we don't have anything beyond this. We'll probably add another one later this year, but that's the only one we have right now.
Okay. And they can find out information for that at pmbuild.com.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mark. Really appreciate your time. This was a really interesting conversation. Hope people learned from it, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Appreciate what you do.